I've spoken in the past about some fascinating lessons concerning gratitude that we can learn throughout the book of Exodus. So it shouldn't be a surprise that there are some more lessons on that topic in the final Torah portion in the book. The Parsha begins with a reckoning, a calculation of the combined amounts of precious metals that the Jews donated toward the building of the tabernacle, the Mishkan. Some of those donations were voluntary. Some of them were mandatory. I understand why God would list the total amounts of the voluntary offerings to thank the Jews for having reached into their pockets. But why the need to give us the aggregate amounts of the mandatory donations? Perhaps God's telling us that even if someone has to do something for you, when they do it, thank them. I'm sure each person who gave that mandatory half shekel felt good about himself when he read that count, saying, yeah, one of those half shekels in that amount came from me. And the Mishkan itself is all about gratitude. That's the place that God gave us where we could go to express thanksgiving, where we could go to bring sacrifices. God doesn't need our sacrifices. It was a chance for us to thank Him for all of the incredible things that He does for us every day.
What are you doing?
Every day I make a list of 10 things that I'm grateful to God for.
I'll be grateful someday.
You got to be grateful for the little things in life. Otherwise, you'll never be grateful for nothing.
And by doing that, by thanking God, we became better people, more gracious people. And at the very end of the Torah portion, we're told that when God's cloud of glory was on top of the tent of meeting, even Moshe couldn't enter. But that passage seems to be contradicted by other passages in the Torah that tell us that Moshe was able to enter when God's cloud of glory was present. The commentators resolve the apparent contradiction by telling us that God parted the cloud just like He had parted the Red Sea to make room for Moshe to enter. Now, I know how cool it is when an athlete enters a sporting event through a cloud of smoke. But can you imagine how awe-inspiring it must have been to see that miracle when God would part the cloud to allow Moshe to enter? God's way of saying welcome and thank you to His ultimate servant, Moshe. And the entire book, fundamentally, is based on gratitude. Just think about the name. In English, we call it Exodus because it's all about leaving Egypt. That's our way of remembering that and thanking God. But that's not God's name for the book. He called it Shemos, which means names. What do names have to do with leaving Egypt? The answer is everything. The Jewish people kept their names despite the brutal slavery. They kept their Hebrew names. Moshe's father's name was Amram. That means mighty nation. Who would name a child mighty nation when that child was born into a nation of slaves? Only parents who fully believed in the promise made to their forefathers, the promise made by God that someday He would redeem them from captivity. And why is it so important for the whole book to be an essay in gratitude? Because it's an answer. It's a rebuttal to a monstrous act of ingratitude with which the book began. Go back to the beginning of the book of Exodus, and you'll see in the first chapter we're told that a new Pharaoh rose to power in Egypt who didn't know Joseph. Yosef didn't know Yosef? Was he living under a rock when he grew up? How could he possibly not have known Yosef, the benevolent ruler who had saved Egypt from famine and who had ruled so beautifully for so many years? Of course he knew Yosef, but he acted as if he didn't. He acted as if he didn't have any debt of gratitude to Yosef. And instead, he enslaved Yosef's descendants. So the whole book of Exodus comes to teach us, don't act that way. When someone's nice to you, when someone's good to you, when someone does something for you, whether it's a fellow man or whether it's God, be gracious. Recognize that debt of gratitude and say thank you.